All right, good morning. Welcome to the Delaware County Council meeting of August 25th, 2020. Let's see, we've got a call to, we've called to order. Okay, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Want to start us, Steve?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, could you give us a roll call, please?
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Here.
Ms. Chambers.
Present.
Ms. Lassiter.
Here.
Ms. Piper.
Here.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here. And Denise, was the agenda posted and advertised?
Yes.
Need an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Jessica, a second from Brian. Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. And approval of the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Those are from July 28th. Any discussion or changes? Denise, I think there were some changes made on that and sent out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Resent to you guys.
That was recent.
Yeah.
So we just need an approval, which we have first, or a motion and a second on that. So all in favor? Need a roll call. Sorry. Well, went back to CCA there for a minute.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. Let's see, I'll make an announcement before we go to the transfer and financial agenda. Same thing, we're still under restrictions. Any public comments can be made to the email address, and I do not have the email address in front of me. You remember what that was? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's county council dist@co.delaware.in.us. Again, that's county council dist@co.delaware.in or in.us. And we are ready for the transfer agenda.
Okay. County clerk, E-122, that figure should say $9,994.50. F-122 should be plus, the first line's minus $9,994.50, second line's plus $9,994.50. 198 part-time minus $4,000, 211 office supplies, plus 4,000, total request 0.
Move to, oh, go ahead.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Jane and a second from Jessica on that. Any discussion on that? I think this one also would fall under the hiring freeze, so we'll have to make adjustments for that. This was not a recommendation from the finance committee, or there was no recommendation from the finance committee. This was to come to the full council. Any discussion from council?
Was this someone that was moved up in-house?
Yes. Yeah, if you remember last month, we had 2 positions and we filled one from in-house, so this is filling that in-house position.
But it's a new hire?
Yeah, this would be,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's,
I had to stop and think where all the slots were full.
well, I was just listening to what Scott said about
I put a-
amending our motion.
Yeah, I also put a little flyer I got this morning from Baker Tilly projecting the absentee turnout for this election. To put that, in the spring, we had 7,000 absentee ballots that we processed, and it kind of drove us crazy and took us clear to our limit. So as you can see, in the next 8 or 9 weeks, we could be processing as many as 20,000. So that's projection, that's outside projections. My projection was 15,000. As you'll see later today, we have transferred money to buy envelopes and supplies for that. I have secured enough supplies for 15,000, and we should have the time to recover to get the other stuff if we need it, so.
Any other questions from council? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Lassiter,
Yes.
Ms. Piper,
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
EMS A101, Executive Director, minus $3,076.92. 104, Executive Director, plus $3,076.92. Total request, zero.
Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion from, was that Jessica?
Yep.
Second from Ron. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Piper,
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes, excuse me, Mr. Alexander.
Yes. You almost got a vote there, Bill.
I'm gonna have to abstain.
Public Defender, 211, plus 1,000, 184 minus 750, 323 minus 250. That should say, that total should be zero there.
Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion from Jessica, and I heard a second from Ron, okay. Any discussion on that? If not, roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Quakenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you. Sheriff, B135 Lieutenant, minus 4,500. B101 Sheriff, plus 4,500. Total request is zero.
I talked to the sheriff this morning, and we're gonna pull that from the agenda. And I've asked, or I'm gonna ask Bill to send out there was some discussion on the contract and some of the things. I think we're okay, but we wanna make sure everybody's comfortable with that one. So that's been withdrawn.
Do we need a motion to agree to that?
What's that?
Do we need a motion to agree to withdraw that since it's on the agenda and it hasn't been?
Bill?
Never have before.
We've not done that in the past, no.
Communication Center, C126 minus $5,000.92. E121 minus $5,000.92. B126 minus $1,806.66. 110.8, I don't know what that is. 110 something. Maybe it's I-108, okay, sorry about that. Minus $2,153.88. 196 overtime plus $13,962.38. H-108 minus $13,198.21. I-108 plus $13,108.21. D-121 minus $2,779.14. 195 holiday plus $2,779.14. Total request zero.
Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion from Jessica, a second from Larry. Any questions from council? Why don't you go ahead and explain that? You weren't unable to make it to Finance Committee on
Right.
that?
One of them is to replace a dispatcher, Comtech. I've got people that have left for other jobs. I've had one that's gone to the fire department, one that's gone to EMS. I had one, this one specifically, left to join the military. So I'm extremely short on people, and I'm trying to get people in and up to speed, because the overtime is killing us budget-wise, and my people are getting burnout because of the overtime. I believe last pay period, we spent about $7,000 in overtime, which is just unheard of for us in a pay period. So we're trying to get new people into position, and then the transfers are to cover the overtime that we're spending. One transfer is to cover holiday pay, and I believe are the three transfers. It's just, we typically do this time of the year, you know, we nickel and dime it somewhat, move it from accounts into other accounts, so we can cover the budget.
Any questions from council? Roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Miss Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
911, 173 insurance, minus 6,000. 178 educational incentive, minus 1,000. 195 holiday pay, plus 7,000. Total request 0.
Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion from Jessica, second from Ron. Any discussion on this? You may do the same, just give us a rundown on it since,
Yeah, it's the same thing, moving a little bit of money into other accounts to cover.
any questions from council? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Miss Lassiter.
Yes.
Miss Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you.
On to the addendum. Donna?
County Commissioners, 137A VA Assistant, minus $10,476.56. 137B VA Assistant, plus $10,476.56. Total request 0.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Larry, second from Brian. Any questions from council? Okay, Steve, roll call, please.
Miss Chambers.
Yes.
Miss Lassiter.
Yes.
Miss Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Clerk,
Thank you.
Thank you.
on the clerk, you can strike the whole thing. Some of those were done in July previously, and the first one was just a duplicate that was turned in twice. So go down to election. 315 precinct workers, minus 20,000. 211 office supplies, plus 20,000. Total request 0.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Larry, a second from Jessica. Rick, you want to tell
Never
us?
thought I'd buy $20,000 worth of envelopes, but these are just the envelopes that we mail the ballot out to the voter and the envelope that they mail it back to us. These are set up by the Indiana Election Division. We have to use their envelope. And that's $15,000. $15,000 for $20,000. So, you know, accordingly, I'm trying to use everything, just like what Paul just said, I'm trying to use everything in my own budget that I can squeak and move around so that we can get through this without having to come back, you know, to you guys for any more money.
Rick, do you think some of this is going to be able to be turned in on COVID?
Oh,
for
absolutely,
the- okay.
absolutely. We turned in the spring, you know, we turned in for postage, we turned in for some other stuff. This time, as we know a little bit better what we're doing, we're keeping better records and charting. And so, yeah, we'll be able to turn this into that CARES Act.
Okay.
Rick, I was going to ask you as well, $20,000 worth of envelopes. I mean, postage comes into play here, I'm sure.
Yeah, we haven't even spoken to postage, and you know, postage doesn't come out of my budget. It comes out of the commissioner's budget, so that's going to get hurt and hurt bad. We're just, right now as we're
Just didn't
speaking.
know, I didn't know if you'd taken that into,
Oh, yeah,
20,000 envelopes, that's a lot of.
Yeah, we filed for $10,000 extra just in postage for the spring election. That's what we filed with the Indiana Secretary of State through the CARES Act. So with this one, it's going to be even bigger, and we're prepared. We got people downstairs right now that are processing envelopes. We can't even mail out ballots till the 19th, but we're trying to get our envelopes staged and ready ahead of time just because of sheer volume.
I've got another question for you.
Okay?
So being that the governor shut us completely down, has there been anything from the state that's come to you as to how this election, well, how their office or the state can help you throughout this election? Because obviously there's, lack of tax revenue and whatever else that is not coming in. Has there been any kind of guidance for you as to how to get through this with
No.
a budget?
No, we've talked to the state, we've tried to get, they've helped us, they got us all of our PPE, and they're right now working to get us our stuff for the fall. But as far as the clerk's offices being able to handle and process this volume, we're pretty much all working together through our clerks association, and whoever has a good idea, they'll send it out to the others, and that's just like staging all these envelopes ahead of time. We never thought to do that before, we just did it in the process. Well, it's going to cut a huge amount of time out of our processing as we go through this, once we start processing these to go forward. But now, we haven't gotten much guidance from the state, and it seems like a lot of the decisions are made in the last day in the afternoon. We should be projecting out to our voters way ahead of time what we're going to do. We are going to have all of our polling sites open. We are recommending that people go to the polls. Wear your mask. We'll have PPE there. All of our poll workers will be provided with PPE. And, that's probably going to be the easiest way to vote this time, because the mail and everything else is going to be slow and backed up.
Thank you.
Do you have any preliminary numbers as far as requests for absentees?
Oh, just off the top of my head, because we can't really even start processing them now. We see what's in the hopper. The state has a hopper for the people that apply online, and then we get mail and phone calls every day. I'd say right now we're at about 3,000 requests. As I said earlier, my projection was for 15,000, and on that state form, they're projecting up to 20,000 for Delaware County. So we'll just see. As far as having the votes counted on election day, it's only what we can do. We processed 7,000, and we got done at 5 o'clock election day, in the spring. So if there's a huge amount of numbers, I'm sure the state will come through again and allow us either a couple days after the election or a couple days before the election to start counting absentees.
I want to ask you another question as well. When it comes to the polls, with poll workers and whatever else, are you going to run into problems with staffing because of this when it comes with, COVID
Yeah.
and whatever else? I'm not, and I don't want to be sideways here when I say this, but there's elderly people that usually are working the polls. Are you having people back out? Are you running into staffing issues, I guess is my question.
We had a lot more problem in the spring than I expect to have in the fall. People have learned to live with COVID and how to take care of themselves, and we've taught people how to socially distance and how to wear our masks. So I think people have a better grasp of what they're dealing with now than they did in spring. And I hope, the party chairs probably throw a rock at me, but I think we'll have a little bit easier time getting workers. We're reaching out to the community. Ball State has reached out to me, and I have directed them to the party chairs. So there's people out there that want to work. I think we can pull this thing off, and we'll be fine. Of course, I'll always give you my sales pitch on vote centers. We could do it with a lot less people. Just saying.
I want to get back to
Get back to work here.
Yeah, these envelopes. No, you're fine. I
Take us off
appreciate the
track.
explanation and the answering the questions on that, but it seems like a lot of money for 15,000 envelopes.
It is. It really is. And like I say, we have to buy the what do I want to say here? The state form envelopes. So we have to go through Boyce. We, have to buy what's prescribed and use, their supplies. I can't just
So it's
go down to the local printing press.
So it's the state's supplies.
Well, we buy them through a independent contractor, but it's state mandated, yes. I have to use these envelopes.
Now, Rick, is that one envelope to mail them out and then the second envelope to mail them back? So
Yeah,
it's
we have an
actually
envelope, a brown
set.
envelope that we mail out to the person with the ballot in it, with their instructions, with the voter's bill of rights, and a return envelope that has to be used to get it back to us. So we're mailing them two envelopes. Of course, we're putting postage on both of those two and the supplies that we put inside of it.
And there are no other outlets as far as to get those same envelopes anywhere else for less money?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Can you check into that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, if you could do that, I'd definitely appreciate it, but.
What you're hearing from, get most of my news off the radio, there are people that are already mass mailing requests for absentee ballots that have nothing to do with local governments. They don't know, in some states, people are getting requests, so I can understand why they need an envelope that's
Oh, yeah.
not,
You know,
it's
in
almost
Indiana-
like a dollar bill, you know, it's pretty tough to duplicate these envelopes, and there are probably only
Right.
certain printers authorized to do them, and so I can understand why that would be that way.
In Indiana, we're pretty lucky. We don't mail out ballots. We don't mass mail ballots. And, we do absentee voting, which I believe in because it was written for people that need to vote from home. We have what we call travel board, where we even send the voting machine and two representatives to your house to vote you. We don't just drop ballots in the mail. We're mailing to a specific person. That person is mailing back. I think we could do a better job on signatures, but at least we do have signatures to match to on election day, so we see who is voting those ballots. So we are watching it, and, I pity the states that are having to deal with just the mass mailing of ballots, to an address.
Okay,
Rick, you
go ahead.
So you mentioned that it's the party chairs who are responsible for getting the poll workers. So if you're interested in working a poll, then you want to contact either your Democrat Party chairwoman or Republican Party chairman.
That's
to
true.
sign up to do that. That is something that is really important, and I know that the party chairs work really hard to fill those, and especially in the spring, they were having some challenges. So if you have the day or have the time to take the day off, I know that the party chairman and women would really appreciate that, so, and Rick would as well. So.
Absolutely. And if you can't for any reason get a hold of the party chair or get an offer from the party chair, don't hesitate to call me, because we can fill in slots. The election board can fill in slots right at the end. So if you are somebody that would like to volunteer, you haven't had the chance before, there are still opportunities. So don't hesitate to call me, and we'll put your name on a list and be there for election day.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, Steve?
Ms. Lassiter,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes,
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Okay, public defenders, C 164, public defender minus 10,500. D 164, public defender plus 10,500. Total request 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, got a motion from Jane, second from Jessica. Questions from council? No questions? Okay, roll call, please, Steve.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
yes,
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Jail, A 101 minus $2,455.35. C 101 plus $2,455.35. B 101 minus $10,593.80. C 101 plus $11,593.80. Total request 0.
move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Ron, second from Jessica. Any discussion on that? Roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes,
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter. Ms. Piper,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Sheriff, 221 gasoline, minus 30,000. 371 contracts, plus 30,000. Total request 0.
Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion from Jessica, a second from Ron.
What is this contract? Doesn't tell me much.
We've had increases in some contracts we were already in, so that came in after budget time, so we've had to move money around. We've been lucky that our gasoline, with it staying down in cost, we've been able to just move money from one of our already existing accounts, so we didn't have to ask for more money. We also have gone into a program that allows our investigators to, if they have to search cell phones, different things like that, we're now able to do that. That contract was something that was new for us, and it was a little pricey, but it has paid off in a lot of investigations here lately. Also leads online, if you have items that are stolen, our investigators are needing to use that. That contract went up after the fact, so I didn't have it to put into our budget from before. Cell phone usage, those contracts have now gone up. Our investigators and everybody in the cars need the Wi-Fis and the cell phones to run their computers, to do your reports. All these things came in after the fact. I'm just trying to work within the budget that we have and not ask for more money.
Well, I realize that. The only reason I ask you that question is because the 2020 budget was based on existing contract costs, and the 2021 budget
I know.
is
We are hoping to lose one contract that we're
manageable,
in.
really.
So hopefully that'll help us offset a little bit more money we won't be needing. So it'll offset any increases that I don't already see and didn't already have.
Because these increases, if we approve them now,
I know.
they're perpetual in a sense. And,
I know.
okay.
Any more questions from council? Roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe,
Yes.
Ms. Chambers,
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper,
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush,
I'll say yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Financial agenda, public defender, 312 court-ordered attorneys. At their request, that was reduced to 30,000. Total request, 30,000.
30,000?
Yes. They reduced it in finance.
That was reduced at finance.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Got a motion from Jane and a second from Jessica on that. Any questions from council on that?
Well, I'd just like to hear what this is, since I wasn't at the finance committee meeting, and some of us weren't.
Hi, Michelle Harvey, Public Defender's Office, Office Administrator. We pay attorneys when our attorneys' numbers are tapped out, which are set by the state or capped off. Those numbers are set by the state. We have to hire extra attorneys. Most of what we spend is in juvenile court, and juvenile court is overran because of criminal court, because the criminals who have kids, their kids go down to the juvenile system. There's two more of our attorneys from juvenile court. If a mom has children with 2 or 3 different dads, we have to have a different attorney on each dad. Well, we only have so many staff our assigned public defenders there. We only have so many public defenders. And then for that extra, I hate to use that word, but fathers, we have to hire outside counsel to represent those people. We have spent so far this year, in this odd year even, where things have been crazy, we've already spent $71,264 on these contract or hourly counsel. And $38,632 of that has been spent in juvenile court on those. So it's for every For every person that gets elected, or elected, I shouldn't have said that. Arrested, we're using 3 and 4, possibly 3 and 4 attorneys for those children of those people. So we're just out of money in that line, and I have some bills waiting to be paid over there for work that's already been done by attorneys. And then we have some other ideas to help try to curtail this for the rest of the year, which we would like, if we could take 5 minutes of your time after the meeting to maybe discuss with you. But that's where we're at, and it's sad, and I hate doing it, but it's where we're at. It's just to pay these attorneys.
Well, if you're okay with it, what I'd like you to do, we sat down, or I sat down with Bill and you guys last week and talked about a possible solution to help, not completely cure, but help the money that we're spending here, because you said we've already, at this point, 71,264?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your budget was 50, is that correct?
50, and then I've moved from another account 25,000.
Plus an additional 30, so
yeah.
we're over, if this was approved today, we're over $100,000, and
Yes, sir.
that's okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
wanna make sure we're on
Right
the
now,
same
I'm
page.
sitting at roughly 3,700 left in the account right now, and I don't have enough to pay the bills that are sitting over there.
If you guys are okay with it, I'd like her to go ahead and explain, and Mr. Bryan, to go ahead and explain what we talked about a little bit and how this could help us out.
You want me to do that now?
I think that'd be fine
I have
unless
a
somebody's.
question first, before we do that. Are these cases for in-county residents at the YOC only, or does it affect you guys for, we'll say, residents that are from out of county?
It's in county only.
In county only?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So another way of looking at it, Ron, it's really a good question, is we participate in the state
Kelly?
program.
And you'll have to speak
Yeah, if you can
louder,
talk,
please.
yeah.
Sorry.
And state your name.
Yeah, Kelly Bryan, I'm Chief Public Defender. So we participate in the state program, and as a result, we get 40% of our budget reimbursed, but to qualify for that, we have to follow their guidelines. They have guidelines on qualifications, but they also have case caps that limit how many cases an attorney can take. So what Shelley is talking about is we have, in juvenile court, we have 4 attorneys on salary. We also have ethical considerations that we must follow. 4 attorneys on salary, so when they get capped out, what we mean is they've reached the maximum number of cases they can take. So we outsource them to what we call contract counsel so that we can stay in compliance with the state. So the money she's talking about is the money we have outsourced. A major source of our contract payments are to attorneys that we outsource the work in juvenile court. And the reason is, I think maybe an example I gave, you all read about drug raids, a drug raid. Often there's children in the house. CPS is called. They initiate a CHINS case, Child in Need of Services. And there may be one mother, there may be 4 children, there may be 4 different fathers. So we have to, for conflict of ethical reasons, we have to outsource some of that work so that we can stay in compliance with our rules of professional responsibility, but also it's a case cap problem. So recognizing that a significant amount of money is spent in juvenile court on contract counsel, the outsourcing, and hearing from the commissioners and actually from the judges that they would be interested in full-time public defenders. We have a public defender who is willing to go full-time in juvenile court. We addressed it with the PDs. Our PDs now are not full-time, which if he goes full-time, what that means is under state guidelines, he can take way more cases. We're thinking if he can take more cases, then we can cut down on the number of contract dollars we'll have to spend. If he goes full-time, there's also, by statute, his salary would be increased. Now it's about 50% of what a deputy prosecutor would spend, so his salary would be increased to that. So we've tried to work with the numbers to see if that's doable and see if it would help us. And we passed out some information, we've got some information to give where we think it might help. It's something new that we've never done before in this county.
Do you guys have enough sheets for
I think so.
everybody? I think myself, I've got one. Ryan, I think has one. Mary may have one from the other day.
I have mine from the other day. Thank you.
That
I'd
might-
like to
I got one in here somewhere.
follow up on his comments. The issue of going with the state reimbursement, a bit controversial a few years back. Most of the council members are aware of that, but some aren't. But, and I opposed that because I knew from what I had researched that we would then be under their guidelines and limits and controls. So at the time, with the help of Mr. Hughes giving me some contacts, I did some research on full-time public defenders, but locally found a lot of resistance and just had to back off. I'm not trying to discourage you. I still think in my own mind that the way to go is full-time public defenders across the board. So as you move into this general direction, I just want you to be aware that it's been a while since I was involved in doing that, but it was a different person in your position at the time also. And I'm thinking maybe a little bit of resistance from the courts, but I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I know I just backed off of it and gave it up. But I still would like to see some comparisons for that. Since we're already under the state program, we might as well take the best advantages we can as to go by their rules and then try to budget with our rules. That's the problem we have now.
Sure. We're trying to look at things that might help.
Well,
Well, and at finance meeting, I mean, there's more to discuss that I want the council members to discuss with you guys, but to make a long story short, what we've asked them to do possibly for next month for your consideration would be to take money from your existing budget and reduce that to cover the cost of this one, not for just now till the end of the year, but in next year's budget as well, that we're gonna be talking here in a couple weeks. Or
Correct.
I guess less than that.
Next week.
Next week, about that, and, it'd be up to council whether we decide to go this directions, but to me, I mean, I've had time to think about it and work through the numbers and stuff, and I really think if you guys stay on top of this, there'll be some, not only some savings possibly out of this as far as those contract amounts and what we would have to offset, because we'll get 40% reimbursement on the salary increase to go from part-time to full-time. There is no change, even this particular public defender isn't on the county insurance or anything.
Correct.
So that, but even if they were, there would be no change because the part-time public defenders still get full-time benefits out of this, so there wouldn't be any change. I think with the 40% reimbursement and the amount of money that we could save off of next year, our hope is not to have to go back and increase next year's contract payment amount. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. You guys all need to take the time and this sheet gives you an idea, but to sit down and talk with you guys about this and see whether it works. But, I mean, if it's okay with council, I'd like to see them put this on next month's finance for us to consider.
I have one more comment, that number 40% has been mentioned more than once here this morning. That 40% is not locked. That fund is legislated at the state level, and it's X number of dollars, and then it's divided up between the various counties that participate in this program. So that 40% can vary, and it will probably vary down with this COVID thing rather than up. I was at a station an annual session a few years back where they were encouraging us as counties to get on this program, and kind of had a carrot of 60% in the air at the time. And it's down to 40 now, and it's been higher than 40, I think, since we participated. So you're gonna have to be real careful with calculating that, and hopefully our state legislators can be aware that if we get on this, they better appropriate the money for the reimbursement, or it'll wreck your plan.
When you guys give us quarterly reports on where we're at with reimbursements and that kind of stuff. I know there has been a push. They're obviously not successful at this point, but there has been a push at the state level to try and get that amount increased.
Well, to cover more cases, actually. There's been a push. They don't currently reimburse us for misdemeanor cases, and there is currently a push for us to be reimbursed by for misdemeanor cases. So we pay out attorneys for misdemeanor cases, but they are not what are called non-reimbursable expenses. They count against an attorney's number, but we don't get reimbursed. And there's a big push that we would start getting reimbursed for misdemeanor cases.
See, that's the thing, the state legislature only appropriates a basket full of money. Then there's another group that actually administers this reimbursement program, and they're bureaucrats. They're not elected. So the state legislature may say, okay, here's $20 million, and they have to cover the whole state of Indiana, and they're out there, this committee is out there recruiting counties like they recruited our county to join in this. So the more counties they get into it, unless the legislature ups the basket full, the percentage goes down for each county. So it's a slippery slope.
So I do want to ask this, when it comes to this program, so the state, basically, to get that 40% reimbursed, they've increased your costs and your caseload, correct?
They haven't increased our caseload. They've given us, there's a formula. We have to, attorneys have to be qualified. It didn't used to be the case. When I started as a public defender, I was like 28 years old. My third public defender case was a murder trial. That's not really fair to an indigent person. You need to have so much experience as an attorney and so much experience as trial counsel. So we have qualifications now, so that doesn't happen. But there's also case caps, because the idea is an attorney can only effectively represent so many individuals, and it depends on the severity of the case. We've got murder, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 being the least serious, or the penalty is the least. So there's a formula that designates how many of those cases that any one public defender can have. So in order to get that 40% reimbursement, we have to follow those guidelines, if that answers your question.
But, I mean, so the guidelines aren't creating more of a caseload, and they're not creating more cost? Because if this is gonna be appropriated, it's additional, correct, to their department?
Well, no, they've been, the question back to them is can you do this by reducing your budget? So coming to us next month, covering the cost of this employee in their budget for the rest of this year and for next year, once we get to next year's budget.
I get that. What I'm saying is this program costing the county more money? Because from my understanding, the way you guys had talked about it when it came to that public defender, for instance, assault, you said, that there can be 5 different charges there just by interpretation as to what assault is. And there's a public defender for each person in that, correct? that's a part of that?
Well, there's a criminal case, and then a spin-off is Chin's cases.
See, that's where I'm going with it, like,
There's a spin-off, you're right, there's a spin-off.
that's where I'm going with it.
And if there's 4 different fathers, each child, then there's going to be, each of those fathers has to have separate attorneys. You can't, there's conflict of interest rules that prevent us. That's not part of the state program.
That's just part of, okay.
That's part of our, that's part of the Supreme Court guidelines that all attorneys have to follow.
Okay,
Any case,
I wanted to
yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, any case would have to, it doesn't matter whether it's covered by this or not.
But an
They would-
example would be, Scott, if you've got, I'll say there's a shooting, and there's 4 people that are charged, that's 4 different public defenders.
And we don't usually have to hire extra public defenders for those cases. We try to recruit people from other courts. But there are sometimes our attorneys are kept out, and we have to hire somebody from
Have
outside.
to outsource it.
And they have to be murder qualified to be able to represent that.
The state audits us quarterly to make sure we're in compliance.
Now, if you guys are okay with taking a look at this month, what I guess I would suggest from you guys is to reduce the amount of your requests further to what you actually need right now that you have been billed for. And then come back next month and you'll have to put a request on there. I think it was 10,000 and then you had some other ones that were outstanding. That'd be my recommendation anyway.
Well, out of the 30,000 that we're asking for, and we've got, I'll say 3,500 in our account, I've got about $10,000, I think it's like $10,100, waiting to be paid. 2 of our public defenders, our contract public defenders who work out in juvenile court, they submit monthly bills to me. So in essence, if I don't have money to pay them monthly, they're not going to go to court, and we're gonna, juvenile court, I don't know what we would do, because they've got hearings set from now through the end of the year. So I don't know how we would handle that. If we told,
Average per month roughly.
we're paying them $2,000 to $3,000 total. So I'll say $3,000 to $4,000 total a month, the 2 of them.
So you need 10 plus 8 plus
20,000.
something else.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
to
what
try to get us
something
through,
else is.
to try to get us through the rest of the year,
Need
yeah,
10 plus 8 just to get through for the month.
yes.
Well, and here's where we were at finance meeting on it. The request was for 40. We think if you decide to go ahead and approve this position full-time, they may be able to save that 10 through the end of the year.
Right, so that's why we reduced our request to 30, in hopes that, your sheet shows that, to get this one public defender through the rest of the year, what it's going to cost is $8604.18. Of course, we do get 40% of that back. So I'm hoping to go back and try to take money out of other accounts to get that 8604. So we reduced our request by 10,000 in hopes that we could pay 8604. Honestly, I'm hoping I can get that all from other accounts. I have to go back through my accounts. I know there's one I can get at least 5,000 out of. So,
Is 22,000 a realistic number?
I need to say something.
If you can make those transfers
for our appropriation,
for today?
no,
Well, we thought the $30,000, as best we can project, was a realistic number to get us through the end of the year. Is that
Yes.
a fair statement?
yes.
That's where we thought we were at.
But what Scott is asking is What will it take to get you through to the next meeting, the next council meeting a month from now? And I'm saying 22,000, would that work?
Yes,
Through the
yes,
next
yes,
meeting,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Well,
Donna?
Hey, go ahead, Donna. I'd like to hear you.
I don't have good news, but anyway, based on whenever I do budgets for the upcoming budget year, I have to estimate, on one of the budget forms, I have to estimate additional appropriations from now till the end of the year. Same thing I tell you all the time. Based on previous actions, and I only estimated additional appropriations between now and the end of the year is 25,000. Anything you approve between now and either budget time or now and the end of the year, the state's gonna make that adjustment, and we're gonna discuss this later, but you have to cut millions right now for next year. So anything over that 25,000 you appropriate is gonna be added to those cuts. I don't have an answer for where they can find the money. I'm just telling you, this is all gonna affect what we start working on next week.
Well, if we approve the next line item and approve 22, we would be right at $25,000.
Right, with nobody else can get any money the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's it. So telling them to come back next month,
There might not be anything there.
they can come back next
Yeah.
month, but,
We're
and if you
affecting-
give them more, the state's gonna adjust all my budget forms when they get them.
Just gonna,
They're just gonna have to try to find it in their budget, and I know they don't have it, but I don't have an answer for that.
who's
but
gonna increase the cuts for next year is what
Just
you're
have to
saying.
let you know where you stand.
Last year,
It's not good.
did you guys not get some help from the courts on this? I don't know whether they can this year or not, but
Yes, at the end of the year, the courts did make a major transfer to help us out. That was, I think our major transfer was in November to get us through the end of the year. I don't know where the courts stand. I have not talked to Emily about that. I don't know that here in August, if she's ready to say, especially with trials starting back up and everything, I don't know if she's ready to say they could do a major transfer. I mean, I can check, but.
yeah, whatever you can check on, if we can get this done from here on out within your budget. I mean, I know, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. I mean, you basically answered the call that we put out there to try and find some creative ways to make this work. And we know this is an issue. I mean, it's happened, for several years now that with this contract. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to try and figure something out. I think my feeling based on the numbers and what you guys can do, this will increase the caseload for this going from part-time to by quite a bit, and hopefully free up some space in there and ultimately save some money for contract is what we're
Right.
hoping to see out of this. So
He would double his caseload.
right. Well, I hesitated to say that because I wasn't sure if it was
Yes,
truly
it's-
double
yeah,
his caseload, but that's what I
It is truly
thought.
double. It's truly double.
Okay.
But that's another appropriation, that's not this request here.
No.
So that's another new appropriation to supplement that salary. If is this lawyer willing to start, let's say in September or October?
If
What's-
you read
October.
this, they're gonna start October 1st, right?
Yes.
The paper
Yeah,
that
take
she handed
take some
out.
time and look this over, ask some questions, and we'll take a look at it
I haven't seen that, I'm sorry.
next month. So it's a lot to sit here and absorb and by the end of this meeting. So that's why I'm giving these guys some time to take a look at it.
Okay, well,
We have a motion on the table, correct, for
Yes, motion by
motion and a
Jane.
second for the 30,000 at this point. Is there any changes to that motion? If not, I'm gonna ask for roll call.
Were we asking for a reduction?
Ron brought up 22,000 and figuring if that would work till the end of the month, or this month.
Yep. I mean, Donna, is the money there?
Oh, yeah, you got the money, it's not that.
It's,
Cut.
currently, yes, I'm just telling you, anything
This
over
will,
what
yeah,
I
this will
estimate.
affect next year's budget. If we go over the amount that she's turned in, over the 25. And that's not just this meeting, that's from now to the end of the year.
Yeah, the two items that we have on the agenda right now, if you did 22 and this 2769, you're maxing out what Donna said, 25,000. That we would not be able to appropriate any more this year out of the general fund without affecting next year's budget.
Right.
And that includes the sheriff who withdrew for next month.
I think the sheriff's was coming out of his budget.
Was
It
it?
was, it
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
So that's where I came up with the 22.
Okay, I got you.
If you give them the 22, maybe she can get with Emily and see if Emily can give her some money again. I don't know if Emily can, but I mean, like she said, Emily gave her money in November last year. And I know, speaking with Emily, they've saved a lot of money on jury fees. So, we just discussed that yesterday.
Want to amend your motion, Jane, or do you want someone on the floor to amend it?
Well, I can amend it.
Okay.
Okay, what figure did we finally come up with?
22,000?
Okay, I amend my motion to state 22,000 instead of the 30.
I second that.
Who had the second on that? Jessica.
Yes.
Did you second that?
The first time, yeah, and this time.
Okay. Any discussion? Bill, do we need to vote, since they amended that with just one vote?
One vote.
Right, okay.
The amended motion.
Okay. Roll call, please. Steve?
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
EMS 192 education incentive pay, $2,769.12. Total request, $2,769.12.
Move to approve.
Second.
Can you talk about it real quick, Mike?
Yeah, hang on, we got a motion from
Larry?
Larry and a second from Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike Ashley, Delaware County EMS. I'm just, this is just a continuation of what we did last month. I got 3 additional people. And then, for the 2769, to bring them up in their class. And then I'll tentatively have 2 more in November to come before you just for the pay in December. Then I should only have 1 more until 2023 for next year.
That's to get everybody up.
Yeah, and that
Where
should
they
get everybody
need to
up
be
to
with that.
speed where they need to be till 2023.
Don't have any place you can transfer this?
I didn't have last month unless we went out of like capital improvements or those kind of accounts that you said we couldn't. I don't know much about that, but I'm learning, so if you can tell me where, I'm willing to play, so.
And this amount came into play after budget session last year?
Yeah, this is
so-
all that stuff that was set in motion last
And
year.
you've accounted for it in the budget, 2021 budget?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions from council? Roll call, Steve, please, Steve?
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cumulative building fund, 212, it's for badges and key fobs, $1,030. Total request, $1,030.
Move to approve?
Got a motion from Jessica,
Second.
second from Ron. Any discussion on that? Roll call, Steve, please.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you.
Local road and streets, road signs, 60,000, total request 60,000.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion from Jessica, second from Ron. You guys want to talk about this? For some reason, I've got a number written down of 52,494.
We're gonna use 52,494. That's what's in our current budget.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
we just need the additional 60.
Gotcha. All right.
This is for,
This is for striping of the roads, to finish up the ones from last year and then the ones that they're doing this year.
that's a contractual. correct?
Yes.
And this is all, is this a combination of new paving and old
Yes,
in there? But
correct.
that's striping everything for?
Yes.
Okay.
And did you get my email that gave the list of the roads?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a total of, little over 50 miles. It's also, 20, railroad crossing markings.
Any more questions from council? Roll call, please, Steve.
Ms. Piper,
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you.
Carrie, that doesn't include any of, may I?
Yeah.
That doesn't include any of the railroad crossings for the spur, does it?
I will have to look at the list. I don't think so, but let me look at it and I'll let you know after the meeting.
Okay, well, you know, the spur had said that they would take care of the.
Yeah,
railroad
I don't
crossings.
think there's
Okay.
any, listed on any of these, but I'll double check them.
Okay.
Health Department immunization grant, 198 part-time, 16,900. 171 is FICA, $1,293. 211 supplies, 3,850. 212 clinic supplies, 8,000. 320 other operating, 6,000. 323 travel, $2,527. Total request, $38,570.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion from Larry, second from Jessica. Any questions from council?
Nobody here, if you got a question.
Roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Quakenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. Anything else, Donna, on the
Nope.
transfers? That gets us through all of them, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yep, okay. We need the motion that includes the hiring freeze.
Yep. All right, so motion to approve transfers and financial addendum and to amend salary ordinance with like reductions and to be in compliance with Resolution 2020-15.
Second.
Okay, got a motion from Jessica, a second from Ryan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. Okay, any committee reports? I didn't have anything on the agenda. And, let's see, we need the council review of the maximum levies and tax caps. Donna, you wanna?
Yep, every year at this meeting, you have to, I emailed them all out to you guys, July 28th, so you could take a look at all the tax caps and all the maximum levies for all the units. You're either have to make a, recommended adjustment in the past, and I'll read you, this is what you've always done in the past. A motion's been made to approve no maximum, or, I'm sorry, to approve no recommendations for the maximum levies and tax caps, and once you do that, then I have to send these on to the units telling them that no recommendation was made. Otherwise, you can, if you make a recommendation, I have to inform them, and I'm not sure what all they have to go through after that, but
This is where we invite them to come in, right?
yeah, we don't do that no more.
We don't do
Now
that.
that all changed.
I mean, I guess if you made a recommendation to reduce their maximum levy, they'd probably be calling you wanting to come
Yeah.
in.
Is this binding, if we did do something? I mean, is it binding from council that they have to comply, or, I mean, I didn't think that it,
I wouldn't think so, because you're allowed a maximum levy. I
Yeah.
mean, I really don't understand the whole reason why we even do this, but
early on,
part of the law.
yeah, early on, I think we, and I think the rules have changed since then, but early on, I think we, at one point, one time, tried to ask people to reduce by 10%, and
And,
nobody even responded.
right, and even if I think at times, you know, in the old days, I sound like Ron, I know, but used to, for some council members who've never been through this, when we used to have them all come in and talk, and we had to do what were called non-binding reviews, and you would make a recommendation, we'd go through all the paperwork, and if they were still under their maximum levy, all said and done, they got that regardless of what,
Hate to overrule what we did.
regardless of
right?
what you guys did after we went through all the time and effort and paperwork, so
Yeah, we used to
we
actually
don't have to
hear,
do that no more, but the law states that you have to review, these maximum levies and tax caps.
what's your pleasure, council? We'll need a motion.
Last year, Larry made the motion to approve no recommendation for maximum levies and tax caps.
Make that same motion.
I'll second that motion.
They got a motion from Larry, second from Jessica, to make no recommendation of the maximum levies and tax caps. Any discussion?
I don't know how we can make a recommendation if we wanted to with the uncertainty of everything you see on your computer from the state or anybody else. I don't know how they expect us to know more than they do.
Anybody else? Roll call, please, Steve.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Lassiter. Yes. Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush.
Yes.
Love, Jay.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes. Okay, I just want to go into real quick. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
There,
Oh,
Donna, sorry.
yeah, I do,
Okay,
when you guys get done with anything else.
go ahead.
I just got stuff to hand out to you and discuss, but we need to wait till she gets back.
Okay,
well,
Well, we'll-
I'll chime in.
Gotta take a little
okay,
break.
go ahead.
We've got a moment. Was watching the commissioners' meeting the other day and noticed that there was some talk from, I believe it was the city, about raising taxes of some sort. I just wanted to kind of express and say that, you know, I don't think that's necessarily a great game plan when it comes to what we're dealing with right now. I believe the commissioners were in agreement too, when it came to that they were not for anything of that nature. I can say on my behalf that I'm not at all. But, you know, those conversations are happening, which it's kind of bothersome, but, yeah.
Well, was it on the lit taxes, Steve?
Yes, it was on lit.
That's, they have
It's out of
control.
our hands
They have
anyway. They have
control of
the
that.
controlling vote.
No, I know. I
Yeah.
just wanted, I mean, with the situation we're in right now, it's just not necessarily, I just don't know how it can even be talked about, but.
I don't either.
We talked after the meeting, that's why it's important to do the census, because their population is down so much, they could possibly not have the controlling votes no more. You know, so if they've got like 57% of the vote, So they can pass that without any assistance from anybody else. Where you get them below 50%, they have to have another government entity to go with them to pass a raise on lead or something like that. And so the census is important because they've had so many people move out of Muncie that their population's way reduced.
And
I'll go on the record too and echo the commissioner's sentiment and that of Ryan's, that I also would not be in favor of, obviously, it's not our decision to make, but, given the circumstances with COVID and folks, some folks being out of jobs and, just a lot of, it's just hard times for a lot of folks in this. I just don't think it's the right time to be asking for more money from people who.
Are hurting.
Exactly.
Agree.
I agree.
Yep.
Ditto.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got something to say, Ron?
I said ditto.
Okay, all right. Anyway, let's talk, I was gonna do this after Donna talked, but, and I'll inform Jane on it. Budget hearings, obviously, we're gonna start on budget hearings on September the 1st. Also allowing for the next 2 full days, we can decide what time we wanna meet, based on the meeting schedule, for this room, if there's any conflicts with that, but I would say plan on September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then we would give auditor's office Friday and Tuesday, I think, to catch up if there's anything that needs to work, and then we come back on possibly Wednesday, and we can kind of set that time maybe on
Okay.
Thursday, if that's agreeable to everybody. Does that work for you guys, Steve?
Yes.
I want to give you guys some time after those, we'll do the budget hearings the first day where we hear from all the entities on that. Then we'll plan for 2 full days, Wednesday, Thursday. Skip Friday. We got Labor Day weekend. Monday and Tuesday, we would not be back in, then we'd come back on Wednesday to, we're not gonna get finished, I don't think, on Wednesday and Thursday. That would be extremely optimistic and not necessarily the plan, but we would be coming back that next week, I would say, on Wednesday. And depending on where we get to, we can decide what time Wednesday of that next week. Does that work? Okay.
If you look at the schedule, I asked Donna to invert the schedule for our budget hearings, where the larger departments are first, because they're the ones that take up a majority of the time, and by the end of the day, really, after you hear so many budgets, it's hard to decipher what they're doing, and so I asked her to put those first, the smaller departments second, and so hopefully that was all right. We'll try a little bit different this year.
Yep, I think that was a great idea, Steve. I appreciate you doing that and thinking through it. Donna, whenever you're ready.
Okay, now for the bad news. This is the same spreadsheet I make every year for you guys, but, you go down to the very bottom, amount over maximum levy, you have to cut $8,254,000 this year. And let me tell you, I have been very stressed out over this. I went through and tried to find every penny I could possibly find. And I even finally had the guy from the state go over all my budget work Friday. No, I mean, I was confident. I was 99% sure that I did it right, but I still didn't feel good about it. So I had him go over everything, and he said, "You're right, you got to cut $8 million. So after this meeting, I'm going to go down and work on some stuff that I'll be emailing you on revenue losses. I mean, I can justify right off the bat almost $5 million in revenue losses you're going to have. And that's just like in 4 major categories. That's not counting little stuff. And it's like, I found $30,000 the other day, and I went in and told Steve, I was so excited over $30,000, which is nothing. But our riverboat wagering, because all the casinos were closed, since riverboat wagering started, however many years ago that was, we always get 183,000 every year, county general. So they told me at budget workshops to only anticipate half of that, and they really felt like that was probably pushing it for this year. Well, all said and done, when I got the money, like August 3rd or 4th, we ended up getting 122,000, and in my budget stuff, I'd only put 91, so I got to go in and increase that by $30,000, and you thought I'd found 3 million, you know, I was so excited, but loss, I'm telling you, our big loss is EMS, and I hate to keep saying that, but that's been a very major loss for us. 350,000 in interest, reimbursement from the city, and I'm just talking this year right now, reimbursement from the city for communication center and IJS, a little over $400,000. You're looking at $500,000 in lit revenue loss for next year. And those are only estimates. I get estimates in July. And then I usually, around the end of October or so, I get the final figure, and those figures never change. So far, they have never changed. Well, this is kind of an exception year, so I'm not saying those aren't going to change, because they're going to have more time to look at the unemployment situation. They could reduce that even more, because as long as we've got all these people unemployed, we're not collecting that tax. So that's a $500,000 hit automatic. So between EMS, Justice Center, lit taxes, and interest, I can come up with close to $4 million in loss of revenue next year. That's not counting all these other little things that. So I know that really looks like a very outstanding figure, and like I said, I have really been stressed out over this budget, and I can't find no more money. And I got departments that have to, they have this sheet they have to fill out and give me what their estimates are, because I don't know their estimates. One automatically, clerk's office estimates from last year to this year are down $240,000. They estimate those, I don't. EMS might give me his sheets, and he had talked to his billing company, I think. I don't know. His estimate for the last 6 months of this year was $400,000. I reduced that to $300,000 because looking at the figures, I'm not comfortable with it, and I'm not sure they're going to hit the $300,000. On top of that, back in, I don't know what month it was, I notified the state that the city had took over, and I had to reduce that revenue, and I reduced it from $2.8 million to $1.6 million, which left $1.2 million. That's overestimated. We're not going to make that money this year. That was just a guess at that time. So really, the loss is even going to be more substantial than what I've already reduced the budget. All these add up. So like in January this year, with the help and the hard work that you guys have done, we started the year in County General with $6.5 million. That was our cash January 1st. When you look at my budget forms, all these different budget forms I have to do, it's predicting, and once again, you gotta remember, I have to act like 100% of all budgets are spent on this paperwork. But bottom line is, we're gonna start January 1st with just a little over $3 million. We're gonna have to borrow it. $3 million ain't gonna get us 2 months worth, hardly. So, I mean, if you have any questions, I can answer, but I'm telling you, I have went through this budget, and I told Becky one day, I said, I'm gonna quit looking, because every time I look at something and I'm losing money. I'm not gaining money
Going the wrong
anywhere.
way.
So, like I said, when I gained that 30,000, like I just thought I'd found 30 million, but I showed on there last year, you had to cut, we were over our max $3.5 million. The previous year, it was almost 5 million, it was 4,900,000 and some thousand, which just shows you all the hard work that you guys have done that has brought that down each year. And once again, I advertised a $6 million operating balance for county general, and you can see we did the same thing last year. We had to cut some, so we ended up with $5,123,000. So, I mean, there's a little leadway there, but I hate to give you the bad news, but.
Well, that's, I
And
mean,
also going through, I mean, I just showed you what the council adopted at budget time last year, what's proposed. That doesn't include any additionals or anything. That's what you adopted at that time. I've got, Community Corrections has a budget that they can't fully fund this year, nor do they have enough money to fund next year, so they're gonna have to make adjustments at budget hearings, which that stuff I'm gonna add to this other sheet showing you what other little funds outside of tax funds have to be cut. I think Community Corrections is the only one that can't fund their budget, but hate to give you the bad news, but.
no, I mean, that's, we anticipated that, that this was gonna be the case this
And
year. and
all
we
my
would-
paperwork and my discussions with the state, they're telling me to look forward this happening until 2023.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna mention that, mention that as well. I mean, this is not gonna be just this year.
No.
But if we don't get where we need to be this year, it's gonna make it a lot worse for next year and the following year. So, once again, I'm gonna ask, you know, any of the department heads in the room or any that, listen to the meeting later, that we're gonna need some help.
We've been very upfront with that.
Yep, I think we've communicated that, consistently.
Yeah, and we do have new positions, we have raises, we've got $1 million in sheriff pension. I mean, there's substantial cuts right there. It's not $8 million, of course, but there's probably close to 10 new positions and numerous raises. And like I said, the sheriff, which he always does, puts in the sheriff pension a big amount, but you guys cover that.
Well, it's in, yeah, it's in two,
Right.
it's in the general fund and the
Right.
lit budget, and we'll take care of that. I mean, that's not a, but we are gonna need some help, from the department heads and any of those departments before that you've been able to put in to perpetual funds or anything like that. I would be looking towards that way.
The lit public safety, started with 600,000 this year. Due to, lit taxes being cut, it's taken a $192,000 hit next year. If 100% of budgets and you were already into the operating balance last year, you were already approved more in budgets than what was coming in for the year. You already were using part of the operating balance. And this year we started with 600,000, estimated, January 1st, cash balance is 200,000. We've ate up 400,000 of that money. And I have to have money in that budget to operate. I only get a 1/12 of the money every month. And we have to have money to be able to meet payroll and stuff. So I think you are gonna have to make some cuts there. I mean,
Yep,
that's,
we'll get there. It's just gonna take a lot of work.
so that's just more things, but I'm gonna work on a sheet showing you the main revenue losses is just, I mean, that's not counting little revenues that we get in, state reimbursements are down. I mean, I've hunted and hunted. And you know, I'm always conservative and hope that, you know, I've way underestimated and we're gonna get a lot more, but it's just like interest. We're gonna lose $350,000 just this year on interest.
Well, I appreciate all your hard work. I know this is weighing weighing heavy on you, and I know, all of us, I mean, it's not where we wanted to be,
No,
for sure,
not
but
after all the good work everybody's
so
done.
much of this was, out of our control.
Donna, would it be possible to have the end of July balances,
I'm sorry.
the end of the July balances emailed to us for the budget hearing?
For all the budgets, or,
Yeah, for salaries, everything, like,
yeah, you back there? Yep.
didn't see.
So you want appropriation balances
appropriation balances.
as of the end of July?
Yeah, end of
Okay,
July.
yeah. And then when we come up on September, when we start budget hearings, Becky will have, on Monday, she'll run current balances too, so, like she always does, but, yeah, she can email that.
Well, and for the departments, if there are decreases that can be made in this year's budget,
Absolutely.
those will be helpful and necessary, so,
Yep.
okay. Anybody else got anything?
I had a couple of questions. The circuit breaker
Oh, yeah, that's another million, too.
revenue, is increasing by 1.2 million, which decreases our
That's part of the 8
revenue.
million
but
that you have to cut.
Why is reassessment circuit breaker less than 2020?
Because it's based on the levy. Like, the total circuit breaker for Delaware County is $8,077,260. Then, once I do what's the Form 4B that I do, which you put on all your budget, you put on all your revenue, and then you get to a bottom line of the tax dollars that needs to be raised. So of the 4 funds, then you take that levy amount, you put it in this worksheet from the state, which then calculates the circuit breaker loss per fund. And when that levy, it's all based on the levy per fund. It's based on the levy and the total amount of the estimated circuit breaker. So percentage-wise, county general always gets hit the worst because our rate's the most, but it's just like on Cume Bridge. I always advertise $2 million levy, and if you look to the right where it says proposed tax rate, 0.0638 for 2021, that's not gonna happen. Their rate will be 0.0578, but I always advertise the $2 million, not knowing what the assessed value is gonna be. And this is all based on a 10% reduction in current assessed value, which is what they have me do every year. That's been since the beginning of time. And most years the assessed value goes up, so all these rates get reduced, but regardless, Cume Bridge will get reduced to 0.0578. Doesn't matter. It's a set tax rate until 2022 because they did the paperwork to increase the rate. So you're gonna lose more money in 2022 because Cume Bridge is getting a penny rate increase. So that's gonna affect County General Board of Health and reassessment. So it's just all based on the formula, Ron, of putting in that,
Well,
that proposed levy.
it looks awkward because
But-
everybody else, but
And County General always gets the biggest hit.
county Board of Health.
And that's part of your $8 million is the $1.2 million that County General's losing in circuit breaker next year. That's all figured in on the budget forms. Last year at budget time, we did $5,919,000, I think, so what my circuit breaker worksheet showed for County General. After the abstract was done, we lost an additional 200,000 because it ended up being 6,137,000. So it's just little losses like that that add up.
Well, I'd also like to make a comment as I guess, a senior member of this council. As I look back and and kind of reviewed in my mind where we've been since I arrived on the council, we borrowed money every year until this year. We borrowed money in-house the first few years because reassessment always had a surplus, and over the years we took away that surplus, but we always borrowed against reassessment for the first 2 or 3 years I was on the council, and then we had a 2 or 3 funds, I can't remember all of them now, but we borrowed in-house, and then for the last 8 or 10 years, we've had to borrow from local banks. And this is spread out over councils back for 20 years. Different people sitting in these chairs, always working for the same goal, different political parties working together, in majority from time to time, one or the other party. But the goal was always to get us to this point. And the goal has been reached, and now it's been breached, unfortunately. I hate to be poetic, but it's disheartening to think that so many people who didn't always totally agree on everything that was happening, the outcome was what was hoped for. And Donna Patterson has been a big key to this, and I can understand why she is having some frustration within herself, because she's kind of been the one that would put the hammer on us, no matter what our politics were, and said, you can't do this, or you can do that, or whatever. And I've known Donna now most of her life, I guess. She's been a good friend, even though we were opposite politics. She's never ever disrespected me or anybody else that I know on the council in these numbers. And it's so disheartening and disappointing to see that now we have what I call an impossible task. I honestly have no idea what to do. I'm frustrated, not like Donna is, because I don't have to live with it every day and make sure that every number on these sheets is exactly right. I'm just really, I guess I'm just frustrated. That's all there is to it. I don't know the word. It's disheartening, and unfortunately, we're going to move forward. But when the circuit breaker hit us, county council actually set up some programs for early retirement, still had what we call reduction in force, 26 people out of this government. And every department has survived that. There were a few departments that were very frustrated and mad at the council because the department heads were given, or the elected officials were given the opportunity to sort of pick and choose who might be riffed. But it happened, and some people retired that didn't want to retire. We even gave incentives for early retirements at the time. And I'll recall one individual was already announced their retirement, but then they unannounced it because they wanted to get in on this program that we had, which had some dollars incentive in it, which cost us a few bucks, but it worked. By and large, it worked. This time, we're going to be right back there again. I'm afraid we're going to end up having to ask some people to reduce their force, and I don't like that at all. That wasn't fun. It was tough to do, but unfortunately, I think we've got some newer folks on the council now. Larry's been around. He went through that stuff. He knows what it is. He was right with us. But of course, Mary and I have been here forever, so we know the music, but we don't like to face it, I guess is the way to say it. Thank you for listening.
Anybody else?
This is just a housekeeping. On our website, when it lists our meetings, it says we're the last Tuesday of the month instead of the fourth. So I don't know who changes that or who fixes that or,
We'll look at it.
Okay. You got anything, Steve?
No.
Nope. Okay, anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. From Larry and Ryan. A motion from Larry, second from Ryan.
Get down here before I talk.
6, 1, and 2, we knew, man, we know.
You guys were right there. I didn't have to say anything.
Don't you
Roll
love
call,
this?
please, Steve.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes. I even
Miss
put it on my
Lassiter.
styrofoam.
Jane?
oh, I'm sorry, excuse me,
Yes.
yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Mr. Quakenbush. Mr. Alexander.
Aye.
Yes.
It's restroom time.
Thank you, guys.
Before you guys
You're on the left
leave,
side here?
before you guys leave, since we live stream,